So just while we wait for folks to come in, please just follow the QR code and let us know who's in here. I'll give folks a minute to do that.
I can't scan the code right now. Is there something I could put in chat for you, Ben?
Yeah, that'd be great. And my colleague Katie Bloss should be here and she can capture your info. Is anyone still working on that or are folks all set? All right.
Yeah, the
So thank
QR is not working.
QR is not working for you?
Yeah.
Okay, that's David Garvey. Katie, you want to just capture David Garvey? And David, can you just let us know where you're from?
Oh yeah, I just put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Great. So I am Ben Stang. I'm a director at Social Impact Partners. It's great to see some familiar faces. I've been at Yale Ventures the last 3 years and actually came back to SIP to work on this commission. I just think it's an incredible opportunity. I have two young sons who are going to be going through Connecticut public schools, and I'm terrified of what the future means for them. So being part of shaping their education was something that's especially meaningful for me. So I'm just going to go a little bit more in depth on what Chris shared on the different work streams of the commission, just so you have an overview of it. And then we really want to hear from you on career-connected education. So pathways, design, and governance, this is really the first, what's going to set the stage for the entire commission. So if you look at other states that have strong career pathways programs, um, they're very much so structured. They're led by industry. They are organized programs that districts can easily plug into. Career-connected education and work-based learning put together, that's really what we're considering a career pathway. So everything that students experience within school and also the work-based learning experiences they attain. And then statewide systems. So we're going to be looking at what data accountability do we need, what funding is necessary, what policy recommendations are we going to have to make to truly implement career pathways across all Connecticut schools. So within career connected education, this is a huge bucket. So what we did is we broke it out into two different working groups, student access and student supports. So student access is where we're talking about dual enrollment, credentials of value, and school models. So looking at different school types and ensuring that they can implement pathway programs. And then student supports are those things that students need to navigate pathway programs. So career exploration and curriculum guidance, student advising, and educator support. So ensuring that teachers and instructors can plug into these programs. Um, so what I am going to do is I have four main questions. We'll spend a few minutes on each and we'll capture the themes as we go. Um, Maybe what we'll do is if you want to participate, please raise your hand because we have enough folks here that I think we should have some order to it. Just say who you are, where you're from, and would love to hear you riff to get some feedback. So my first question is current state, and I should back up by saying right now the commission is in a discovery phase. So we're really looking across the state and saying what are those bright spots, things we really want to highlight and emulate throughout the state. Where do we want to go as a commission, as a state? Like, what does an ideal future look like, and what are those roadblocks to getting there? So, first off, what are some current programs, initiatives, and best practices within Connecticut or outside of Connecticut that you're aware of that you would want to share? And this is in regards to, it can be for dual enrollment programs, credentialing programs, school models, curriculum, anything that you're aware of. Liz, thanks for raising your hand.
So Danbury Career Academies model, for
Yeah.
example. Um, I know the regional sector partnerships intended to do some of this, depending on the partnership, depending on the region, depending on that. There's But those are some of the, I mean, there's many I could list off, but those are some of the ones that come to mind.
Yeah. Liz, do you want to expand on any of those? Because I had a chance to visit Danbury and it's really incredible. And if you want to maybe just provide a little color so people
Yeah,
really understand what
so
we're talking about.
we are really interested in continuing to support that. So they are in year three. I mean, so let me take a step back. They've had some type of credentialing opportunities in their school system for a very long time, but they're in year three of this formalized career academy model. And so their first graduating class that went through this model will be graduating next year. So grades sort of 9 through 11, or 9, 10, and 11 are currently in the model. And so everyone goes through a typical high school curriculum with an added pathway. So they have, I believe, 8 pathways in Danbury Public Schools, um, and in different industries and sectors. And so the students go through, yes, high school curriculum that you would expect, but they're also getting an industry recognized credential in whatever academy they're in when they come out of school. And I just, and I think it's a pretty incredible model. I think obviously they have still work to do to get it to a full-fledged career pathway model, but it's really promising.
Yeah. Thank you, Liz. And
Hi there.
any idea of programs in other states that you would want to highlight?
Hi there. I'm unable to raise my hand. I don't know where that was. Sorry. I was looking for it.
No problem, Robert. You want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, my name is Robert Bongelotti. I work at the Connecticut Department of Labor in the WEO Administration Unit. I'm the temporary manager for a program called the ODEP grant, which is a 5-year, $6 million grant for students with disabilities to enter into the potential of integrated workforce programming. And what we've done is we've partnered with our partners at the Connecticut Department of the Bureau of Rehabilitative Services to directly co-enroll individuals in both BRS services and WEOA services. But part of our model and what we've done with some of the funding that's available is to work on career pathways for students who are not yet in transition or just coming of age of entering into the transition era where they're able to actually transition into career pathways. And we're working closely with with Educate Ed Advance out in the northwest part of the state. Part of our grant is going to be funding a couple of pilot programs, and those pilot programs are going to be career accelerated programs where individuals who will be in those programs will at the same time not only be getting, going through the process of being in WEOA Title I, which means you're going to get actual work experiences through the Labor Department. But they're also, in addition to that, going to get credentials in specific career pathways. And so right now we're serving statewide 73 participants. We expect to serve somewhere between 100 and 200. And the connections that we're making in terms of, we all tend to work in silos in Connecticut, and we're breaking down those silos through this grant. And so I just want to point that out that it is a good way to take a look at it. And it is something you guys ought to take a look at. We're also in the process of developing a curriculum that's going to be able to be used for teachers and career counselors and staff and parents to describe and break down the joining of both workforce and education together, right? So that we're all working in the same way along with BRS. So, what we've been finding is that there's a lot of misinformation between all three groups. And we want to break down that, and we want to make it easy for parents to understand. We want to make it easy for counselors to understand and get direct accesses to the workforce programs we have so that kids who are in that exact age that Mr. Cardona was talking about get access to understanding what the workforce system is and how they can access it right now for their benefit so that they have it for the rest of their life and they can use it to access all the services that are available.
Yeah. Thank you, Robert. That's incredible. And is that totally state funded or is that through a federal grant?
It's a federal grant, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ainsley, I think you were the first hand up, and then Justin, and then David.
Hey, Ben. Everyone on this call. Again, Dr. Ainsley Diamond. I'm the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs for the Connecticut State Colleges and University System. Um, what I would go back to, Ben, what you said at the beginning about focus groups. And with the CSCU system, we're obviously heavily in the dual and concurrent space. And I would say that there is a great tie, obviously, between the dual and concurrent work that we are doing, the cross-agency collaboration with CSDE. We're all in this work together. And partnering, dual and concurrent is an interesting space of collaboration. Obviously, having UConn being the oldest program in the United States in our state is fantastic. And dual and concurrent is a unique space for us to be in because it's not proprietary. It is so geographically centric for our students. And so it's a great opportunity for us to all learn from each other. One thing I do want to point out, it is really hard, and I would say that I would love to soften the anti-higher ed message that comes across in some of these conversations, because we see these, the old 1976 Newsweek article, and then we immediately start talking about dual and concurrent and how those credentials and industry partnership is in work-based learning is so important. And through our community colleges and our universities, this is what we do 9 to 5. So I would say that is something that really needs to be identified, and especially when we're talking about the commission where we're all trying to do this cross-agency work. So it is so valuable for us to learn from every single person that is on this these calls, because it is a lot of value for SIP to really dig into. But just want to put those thoughts out there.
Yeah, really appreciate that. And we're totally taking this from the perspective of it's not college readiness or CTE. They're both a pathway to career. With this career connected education working group, I mean, statewide dual enrollment. And when we say dual enrollment, we're using it as an umbrella term for dual and concurrent. I mean, that's a major part of this plan. So having all students having the opportunity to receive meaningful college credits while in high school is absolutely a priority of this commission. Justin, you were next. And Justin, could you just
All
introduce
right.
yourself?
Yep, sure. So my name is Justin. I'm Director of Cybersecurity at Microsoft. I think the original question was, where are the bright spots across Connecticut and where are really good programs? I want to call out Hartford Public School District and their partnership with Ready CT, where Ready CT runs a pathways program where they pull in industry partners like Travelers, like Microsoft, like American Eagle Federal Credit Union, and the list goes on, and provides work-based learning opportunities to students. At one of the schools I participate in, which is Pathways Academy in East Hartford, we have 138, actually more than 138 students, I'm sorry, and
Justin, you're breaking up a little bit.
I'll
Justin,
type it out and I'll put it in the chat window for you.
Thanks. Yeah, just for the sake of keeping the conversation moving. I believe Jennifer was next.
Oh, great. Well, I just wanted to build on the earlier mention about higher ed and some of the structures that already exist for that sort of dual enrollment. For those who don't know, and I think as Ainsley, you may have referred
I think we have Jen, I'm sorry. I think your internet connection
at
was a little
UConn, we do
unstable.
already program, and that has 20,000 enrollees.
You're back if you want to keep going. Maybe
Any better
you just
now?
back up. Yeah,
Oh,
if you could just
okay.
back up a
Thank
little
you.
bit.
So sorry. In the afternoon, my internet decides to head out to happy hour, I guess. I was just referring to at UConn, we do have the early college experience, which has 20,000 students each year at over 200 schools, high schools across the state. So I do think, together with CSU and others, we do have a lot of structures in place that folks may not be, and by folks, I mean the public may not be aware that are.
I think we're losing Jen again.
Are happening and just needing to have as
Thank you, Jen. Totally noted. Katie, who's my note taker, I think got that down. Kathleen, bright spots in Connecticut.
Yes, thank you. I spent 11, 12 years at Western Connecticut State University, where I was the director of the Career Center. So I had and saw an access to thousands of students. And even they had us go and we even went into the high schools and whatever. But what I found for somebody that's actually on the ground is students, and my observations that students need early and continuing access to this exploration, which is, I think, is going to be very, very important to embed into curriculum across the state. We had created three credit-bearing career education classes. We had integrated life design, which really has some clever stuff. It originated in Stanford, but it was something that we were, for the state university, really was well known for the work that we did. And the students repeatedly were telling us, I didn't know I had permission to think this way. To be able to give them the power to have the confidence, competence, and connections that when they all through their time at WCSU and beyond. So I really think that we need to, especially when it comes to the early guidance, the continuing guidance, the embedding from the essential skills in the curriculum, and looking at the whole career development piece from many, many aspects of it. I know that I'm hearing about a lot of tools that are great, but we really have to think about that why that Secretary Cardona talked about. And it's got to be the students' why. Why are they doing this? What about themselves, getting to know them and all through it. So for someone who has been there on the ground, I really think we have to look at what's really going on in these kids' heads.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathleen. That's totally in line with student supports. Could I just ask Justin and Jennifer to lower your hands if you don't mind? And Commissioner Russell Tucker, I see your hand.
Hi, Ben. So thank you very much. I just wanted to jump in just to share about the best practices, and Dr. Diamond's thoughts and Jennifer just here, I think, are well stated. Just in case folks missed it, 2 days ago, we recognized six of the 2026 Blue Ribbon schools in Connecticut. That's a program that we continued here in the state. That used to be a federal program. But the reason I'm bringing that forward, one of the Blue Ribbon school was Ridgefield High School. And the superintendent in our recognition program, not the superintendent, but the principal of that school, talked about them expanding their school's UConn Early College Experience dual enrollment program. What was really key about that, sharing that more than 70% of those students in Ridgefield now graduate with at least 3 college credits. And they turn that into the return on investments for families, saving families an estimated $1.54 million annually. Right. And this is happening in many, many pockets across the state. Of course, more to be done, which I believe is an outcome of what we're working towards here. But I want to make sure I bring it in the space, and I appreciate unearthing things that are going well. Because we know how important that is, while we look for those barriers and those things, that we continue to uplift those things that are doing well, that are going well. And I just want, hey, I'm proud of our 6 Blue Ribbon schools that's there, and just wanted to make sure that one of the schools really talked about this work that they're doing. And just today, we were at a press event in Newington where all the students were there, and all of those talk about career advising and the career paths guide that DOL put out, that's out there for students and folks are using in our school district. So just wanted to lift that up in this space. So thank you.
Thank you so much, and love the example of Ridgefield pointing to the ROI of dual enrollment. It really is the most accessible and affordable way for students to get college credits. Sarah, I believe you're next.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to bring up something regarding student voice, because I happen to work with a lot of young people in Bridgeport. And in Bridgeport, we're in that statistic that was mentioned earlier in the conversation, where there's one counselor for every 400 plus students, right? The students I work with continuously say that they don't even know what's available to them. So right now I'm working with a student who a few weeks ago shared that, yes, right now she is in college, but when she graduated high school, she had no idea that she could even apply, that it was an opportunity that was available to her. And she didn't even know what community colleges she could utilize within the city. And so it seems basic, but one thing that we have often talked about is that there should be an automatic certificate sent to every single eligible student within the state of Connecticut. You are in, you are admitted. And here is the name of the community college. Here is the name of where you can get in automatically, every single student. Because if you don't know, you don't know. And so if you receive that, and yes, it would go through the counselors potentially, and then to the student, and maybe via email, and then, or they could print these, and these certificates could be handed upon graduation when you walk across the stage. So immediately I know what my options are. I'm looking at them and I'm sharing them with my family. And now I have options. And so I just wanted to share that because there's so many opportunities that we have to bridge those gaps and to be talking with each other and to be making this a little bit easier for the students who just want to figure out what they can do with that next step.
Yeah, Sarah, I think you have a crystal ball because one of the questions I'm going to ask you all is recommendations you'd like to be included in the report. I think you just provided a very specific and noteworthy one. Thank you. Sal, you just got teed up with something in the chat and your hands up, so take it away. Bright spots in Connecticut.
Yes, thank you very much, Sal Menzo, Goodwin University Magnet School System, former superintendent in Wallingford, which has a career pathway that's been around for about 12 years now in advanced manufacturing, the second school district in the state to get the advanced manufacturing certificate through the Department of Labor. At Goodwin Magnet School System, we're fortunate because we have two high schools, one that's behind me that's being built, the first magnet technical high school in the state of Connecticut, that will offer, as well as our other high school, associate's degree opportunities in concurrent enrollment, as well as dual enrollment early college experiences with both University of Bridgeport and Goodwin University. Within that, there's also the industry recognized credentials, obviously the workplace environment opportunities with apprenticeships, and also making sure that we have the appropriate CTSOs in schools, the career technical student organizations, because that's a key piece that I think is missing from your model, but maybe it's implied. But that's also ties directly to Perkins, because a lot of this work does tie to Perkins, and that's why, I hope and I'm sure, I mean, knowing the commissioner and having worked with him when he was in Meriden, when he was assistant superintendent, and I was superintendent in Wallingford, you don't need to create more industry partner groups because every school district should have one if they're in compliance with their Perkins grant. So we wouldn't want to create an additional opportunity, but maybe just hone in on those that maybe haven't fulfilled that requirement to the greatest extent that they could. But I just want to mention that, our schools, as I mentioned, we have the associates option. It's challenge by choice. Tonight we have our graduation from our high school, CTRA, Connecticut River Academy. And I always start off my presentation with asking how many students graduate with at least 3 college credits. I usually get to about 42 college credits, which is a $42,000 savings for that child and that family. About 75% of our students will get to at least 24 credits. And the good news is that we're transitioning all of our high school programming to our first high school, Connecticut River Academy, to a health sciences certificate, which will be a real health sciences certificate where it won't be just general ed. It'll also have health sciences that could lead them into appropriate programming, business certificate in business administration, as well as computer science. And then, of course, our engineering manufacturing. But I won't take any more time because I know you want to get to recommendations, but I do consider the hard work of our staff really a tribute to them and their commitment to our scholars and our partnerships with business. We're fortunate to be the RSP leader of the Advanced Manufacturing Partnership in Hartford. We were assigned as the administrator for AMAP. And that is another opportunity for us to continue to share what we're doing. So, and I know we have some time next week as well. So thank you very much. And good
Sal,
to see you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And Ainsley, and then this is going to be the last one for the current bright spots, and then we'll move on to the next question.
Yep, just bright spot that I should have mentioned before, but Sarah's comment made me think about it. The Connecticut Automatic Admission Program. I put the link in there, which Sal is giving a thumbs up for because he's a part of this. But definitely look at that website. Our community colleges are open enrollment. That's why they're not a part of this program. But all of our universities, including Albertus Magnus, Mitchell, and Goodwin, are a part of this program. CT State resident. 2.75 unweighted, 3 weighted gets you automatically admitted into those institutions. Yes, there's devils in the details there, but Sarah, thank you for bringing that up, and that's definitely a bright spot that I forgot to mention before.
Thank you. Liz, last bright spot before moving on to the last question.
Yeah, I just more like a comment. I appreciate everything that the CSCU is highlighting, et cetera. I just also think like our mindset too, we can continue to think about this not as like a linear career, like, people are not, when we're thinking about career pathways, people go here and then they need to circle back and go through and get a different credit. And like, how are we, so just kind of acknowledging like the complexity of how these things, I know this isn't the structure group or the structure breakout, but just sort of how we're thinking about these and how pivotal, yes, the CSCU system is for the different iterations that any individual is going to go through in their lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So this was a question 2B to this one, and I touched on it and no one really said anything. So I'm just interested if anyone has bright spots outside of Connecticut that you would want to flag for us. Liz.
I actually do. So a lot of my work prior to joining the foundation 4 years ago was in New York City. And, there's a lot of high schools there that are directly connected to both community college and industry pathways. And the most recent example is the big investment in Queens for that Northwell Health, Bloomberg, et cetera, all combined together to have like a much deeper different version of what I was talking about with the Danbury Career Academies, but it's exclusively focused on healthcare.
Thank you. And Sal?
The commissioner mentioned Rhode Island. Rhode Island was key in what we did. We investigated that opportunity when we were building River Tech, and we took it to the next level. But they're doing incredible work in Rhode Island around a variety of levels of manufacturing. Also, I'd say upstate New York. Prior to COVID, I was working with them when I was in my previous district. There's a couple of school districts that are very close to Lockheed Martin that are doing great work with Lockheed Martin and Career Pathways.
Yeah, it's my old stomping ground, Sal. Okay, so next question. This is really just to get us thinking, and there's no right or wrong answer, but future state. So as it relates to career-connected education and things that showed up on the slide before, what is an ideal vision of Connecticut? And this one can be an open discussion. I mean, raise your hands, but I also want everyone to kind of, go off of each other on this one. David, kick us off.
Sure. Dave Cornelius. I'm from SME Milestone C. We do a lot of work with different districts and then post-secondary as well. My 2 cents is when we're looking at something like this, we don't want to build more things that already exist. So cloning, building systems that feed off each other. What I caution is like we can build more curriculum, we can build more training programs, but especially when you look at K-12, they have enough to do already. So removing some of the system burdens and then having systems work with each other, I think is more ideal than trying to build another system on top of this. So that's kind of my 2 cents is building on, like if it works for a certain district that's similar size, go learn from that versus building something brand new. So that's kind of where I want to start.
Thank you, David. And that is a recurring theme that we're absolutely taking to heart. Sal.
Just building off of what David said, who I have a call with tomorrow as well, is the fact that I think we have to be careful that also when former commissioner, former secretary Cardona mentioned about the whole process, we have to make sure that school districts, in particular K-12 districts, understand how this all fits into graduation requirements. because that was off the table. That's really the first piece of a pathway, is making sure you're hitting the graduation requirements. So I would say there's a couple more layers to his. I have a 7-layer approach that I use when we develop them with other districts and within our district. But I would definitely make sure, because that is a very big concern of school counselors as well as administrators, and of course parents and students themselves, that they have that 25 credit accruement occurring in conjunction with the courses they're taking for pathways or concurrent enrollment, dual enrollment, whatever it may be.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really important point of view. Anyone else on ideal future state?
I just want to say that I think one of the things we need to do is to be able to grade our services in a better way between our agencies and work in very close collaboration to break down some of the silos that have been there, so that we're introducing students to the world of work, and not just regular work, but work based on real labor market information, right? So that's where like the labor department can come and we can help, and we can do that because we can provide, actual snapshots of exactly what's going on in that region and where the jobs are going to be and where the markets are opening, and what kind of work is going to be available to individuals. One of the things that we built in, based on your last comment where you were talking about just making sure that that credential is a credential that someone can use, is, for instance, in our programs, we kind of bake this thing called the National Retail Foundation. Now, one would think that gets people ready for a job at Walmart or Kmart, but it does so much more than that. It builds the soft skills that students need to get a job right now, in terms of what it's like to be on time, what they need, what employers' expectations are, what the world of work actually looks like, and what those expectations are. And so there's a credential that you can use, and you can use that anywhere when you go on in your future. It's a credentialed program, and we're making sure that a lot of our students that go through our program get that, so that they use that as a basis, and then they can go on from there and choose different pathways. But that's just like one example. So
Yeah.
I just want to point that out.
Thank you. So demand driven pathways, industry demand driven pathways. Mariki, did I get that right?
Yeah, you did it. Amazing.
All right.
Since we're visioning, somebody had mentioned learning from other districts. I'm on the Board of Education in a very small school district, and my vision would include cross-district sharing of, resources, programs. Our high school is located 10 minutes from 2 other high schools that are also as small as we are. And I think each of us trying to do this alone will not be as successful as if we were able to pool resources and share programs. And I know it's really hard to do that in Connecticut, although some people are being successful at this point. So that would be part of my vision.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Love that you said that. One thing that's actually come out of this landscaping process are some of those partnerships. East Lyme and Waterford both offer different CTE programs, and they developed an MOU to allow students to take them in each other's schools. And we're actually going to use that MOU as a model template for other school districts since it's worked there. David.
Yeah, I had a different one. The credentials discussion made me think of that. There's a lot of credentials for hard skills, less for something like coding doesn't really have a credential, or something like if you take an intro to computer science, there's no credential around that, or like communication skills, anything like that, that's really industry recognized. So as we look at encouraging dual enrollment credentials, we have to worry about what we're boxing out, what we're not encouraging. So when those are very important. So that's kind of, do we create more credentials? I don't know if that's the answer, but what I worry about is boxing out some things that are important for students.
Yeah, it's a good concern. Anyone else on ideal future state? Okay. I'm going to move on to a question that some people have sort of touched on, but I think this is one that everyone is going to have a lot to talk about. So barriers. So what do you see now, the way that we operate, that stop us from achieving what we would want to see in career pathway programs? Amy?
Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Tan. I'm from CT State Community College, and I'm fairly new to Connecticut. I came from Texas, and so we have a very robust, or I had when I was in Texas, not there anymore, um, a very robust dual credit, dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment. We'd early colleges, which I think I heard other people talking about, where students enter in ninth grade and they graduate in 12th grade with an associate's degree, and so I think I'm really interested in that model. Um, I think barriers that I see for our students coming in is it's partially advising, not that advisors aren't doing a fantastic job, but they're taking courses that are not necessarily on a pathway, right? And so they're coming in, and I hear people say this all the time, and I'm like, I don't understand. They're coming in with too many credits. Like, what does that even mean, right? Like, can you have too many credits? But it's because they're not the gateway math or the gateway English, right? And so I think that's a barrier, and I think it also is tied to funding, and sort of how is Connecticut planning to fund, right? Who is going to pay for this? Is this going to be government funded? Is it going to be institution funded? Is it going to be a shared funding model between a high school and a higher ed institution? And I think we all agree that we don't want students to we want our dual enrolled students to access this programming at a zero cost if possible. So I see that as a barrier. So I think that's partially advising, and it's partially how we're structuring our degrees and a little bit of financial aid.
Yeah. And what courses are offered and what students have access to?
Sorry?
And what courses are offered? If someone's coming in with credits that aren't transferable to anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. David, I believe you were next.
Yeah, I had one that I've always had trouble solving, which is everybody wants to talk about externships, real work experience for like those 11th and 12th graders. And even large company will absorb 10 students, 20 students. When you get to 200, they choke on it, right? They just can't absorb that many students. So some kind of model, and there's a few out there. Ready CT has their GRIT program over the summer that is sort of a step closer to that. But what I'm getting at is one of the barriers I found is if you freed up every 12th grader in the spring semester, there's not enough employers to absorb that. So I haven't found a solution, but to me that's a system barrier of how do you get these kids real work experience when the employers are willing, but they're not willing to take in 500 kids in a semester. It's just untenable for them.
Yeah. One solution that I found actually to that is some of these schools in New York City, they'll work with employers to basically develop like simulations of things that happen in the workplace that they'll do in the classroom. So knowing that getting students to a place of work is difficult, taking a large amount of them is difficult, and they'll credit those students with work-based learning credits.
Yeah, and that's something if we can find a way to encourage schools to take that step, then yeah, because now you don't have to transport the kids, you do a simulation, you bring the workers in every once, like I could see it, but how do you encourage that? Like it's almost like an independent study class kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
We're using the virtual reality goggles in our grant. But I agree with you. If that were, and in some cases, it is directly tied to the employer, like automotive. We have a few automotive people that have helped to design that. But I mean, I think you're right. If we could design it so that even if at least everyone gets a virtual work experience, that's a good idea. And those virtual reality goggles make it so that you can do a lot of career exploration.
Yeah, absolutely. Kathleen.
Hi, just briefly, I think it is one of the biggest things is just those sheer numbers that we just can't have or just don't seem to be able to muster together for the counselors and the coaches. I mean, just what it takes for the process of discerning a life is long and complicated. And there are just hearing some of the ideas here. For those of us that were career coaches, there are micro internships that students could do across the US. There are externships. There are many ways of using not only online simulation, there's a whole thing called From the Forage, if anyone has not heard of that. If we could get more of the forage experiences, which are these simulations that students could do, they might see what types of companies or what types of functions that I could do. And I'm going to just throw out a plug for those connections, that mentorship, right? Just trying to get those ways of getting students connected to have conversations with people so they can use those as a prototype, which is a big life design thing, prototyping through experiences and connections. So we really need someone who understands that kind of cradle to grave of what it takes for a person to make those decisions. And then on the other end, what it takes to really go out and make that happen. And then try to encourage them and open the doorways to do that. And that takes, I think, one of the reasons why education has not paid attention to it is because it is so big and it can be very involved. So therefore, we get very few people at the high school or college level who can really help people to do this.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathleen. Mary Kay, barriers that you see right now.
Yeah, I think one of the big barriers is the mindset of college or career, which we've been pushing for a long time. It's college or career. It's not both. And that, those who go to college need to worry about their career later, I think has been the thinking. Even, in our town, as we've started to talk about career pathways, we have parents saying, no, I just want my kid to go to college. I'm not worried about a career pathway right now. I don't want the school to become a career school, So I think there's a lot of thinking that is a barrier to having a new way of thinking and new programs be successful. I think if I could attach a recommendation to it, I would say I would hope that the commission will include in their recommendations, a real PR campaign in the state for what's changing and why it's important. I think the why isn't just for students. I think parents have to have a why, and I think the community has to have a why as well.
Yeah. Okay, that is a great segue. So we have 9 minutes. We've talked about current state, we talked about future state, we talked about barriers. So let's get into the recommendations that you would want to see in the report. These are potential solutions that you've seen that have worked elsewhere or that you've been thinking of. So they could be systems, structures, individual programs, whatever you want to share now. Now's your chance to put your fingers on what this commission comes out with. And we've heard a couple through this discussion, and we've been tracking those. So thank you. Take it away, Mary Kay.
Okay, Dr. Cardona mentioned this earlier, the idea that this starts in elementary school. And I think we are going to really need help seeing what does this look like in K4.
Okay. Thank you. Sal.
I echo that. Just to say, we start in pre-K with awareness, but that's okay. The other thing I would just say is, and I appreciate the desire, and I guess I'm just getting old, 33 years in education, that I appreciate the desire to have the local control aspect and the local fingerprints on a plan and all of that. But at some point, the rubber's got to hit the road. I'll be honest, back in 2019, I did a presentation to the State Board of Education on this exact topic with the exact process that we were putting in place. And Commissioner Cardona was involved, was there, and it never took any flight. And, and I know things changed, obviously COVID hit, but I just don't know if we have 5 years. I heard 5 years. 5 years, I mean, other states have been doing this, as we've heard, for 5 years, if not longer. So I appreciate people's collective thought process and collective feedback. I'm not one to just let's just jam it down somebody's throat. But I do think we have to have a level of urgency, because every child over that 5 years we miss is an opportunity to grow that individual. And, dealing and working with and having the fortunate privilege of working with students who are really changing the trajectory for themselves and their families in my district, that has to happen today, not 5 years from now.
Yeah.
And so again, I understand we want to make sure people feel comfortable. We're Connecticut. We want to make sure everybody has their role, and I'm not negating that, but maybe truncating it a little bit, just that we can, make the move on this a little quicker.
Yeah. Thank you, Sam. I think one thing, that gets to it, it's not jamming things, jamming down anything down any district's throat, but making things easier for districts to adopt. States that are really leading the way in this, a smaller district like the one Mary Kay works in, it's hard for them to build a pathway from the ground up, and having some models that could easily be implemented, and pull people along, not push them, could be very useful. David.
I was going to go the similar route of Sal. So he took some of it, but yeah, move fast, break things a little bit, not a lot, right? Because you got to move quickly. And then the other one is districts that I've found they try a lot of times try to build it themselves. And then they have to learn hard lessons, figure out if it works. And you can find partners that can teach you how to do this. Like, so a short consulting gig to teach you how to do something saves you 3 years of effort, right? Like that's the kind of thing that I think districts need to adapt a little more. Doesn't mean they tell you what to do. They tell you best practices, how to do it. They give you feedback, and then you go do it for yourself, but you've sped it up by a couple years. That's the kind of recommendation that, and we do some of that work with districts already, where when I talk to 100 districts a year, I learn some things, right? And I can come in for 6 weeks and relay some of that info to do some lessons learned. That's the kind of model I think K-12 needs to adapt more, is a partnership and a learning model from each other.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Commissioner Russell Tucker.
I wanted to encourage Sal, or say, Sal, you were early in your thinking and a forerunner, but you should know that the board or state board adopted this in the last set of their plan that they developed. And I think it's so thank you for having led the way. But in the last 5 years, we've actually done that and they're holding us accountable as an agency for the work that's happening and on outcomes. So I think, and yes, we need to move, and we don't have time to wait. But I think the commission is in its discovery phase. I think when you see maybe some of what's happening that may be there are things that may be easily replicable just because of what's already happening when we get to the bottom line on that, that may help us. So it's not waiting to do it all, but there's some things I think can be scaled sooner than others, just because some of this good work is actually happening, and we need to find out where it is not started, right? Not happening. It just helps the system to move at a very deliberate pace.
Thank you. Do folks have other solutions they would want to offer, other recommendations, things that they would love to see included in this report? All right. Well, we are getting close to time. I'm going to drop my email in the chat here for everyone. Ben S. impactpartners.org. Feel free to reach out with anything that, you leave this call, you think of something 5 minutes later, please reach out to me. Also, on the website for the Career Pathways Commission, there is a form that you can provide any comments, anything that you would want the commission to know. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Your perspectives were so valuable. We really appreciate this time from all of you. Thank you.